That was very, very pageant-like.
Series is back. Sorry, Tom. I will call this regular council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Chief, would you lead us in the pledge tonight, please? Yes, sir. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd remain standing for a moment, please. Heavenly Father, tonight we ask for your divine intervention, your wisdom, and your grace. We ask that you continue to heal Aiden Bush, the youngster in town who was accidentally shot in the eye with an airsoft gun. And we ask that you continue to bless all those who participate in our Pataskala Masonic Lodge. Through their beliefs of brotherly love and their charity, with not only money funds of charity, but more importantly, their time and talent spent in all of our community events. We are by far a much better city with the likes of this service group. And Lord, we ask for all this tonight in your holy name. Amen. Okay, Kathy, roll please.
Carter. Here. Walter.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Picken.
Here.
Lee.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum present. I think we're gonna amend the agenda tonight. Somebody gonna take care of that for me?
Oh, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move that we amend tonight's agenda as follows, that we move item 8C, that's motions, to immediately,
That'll be 7C. Oh, okay, there's motions under old business. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, this
Sorry
is
to
new
interrupt.
business 8C.
Yep.
And this would be moved to, I believe, right after, or right before citizens' comments.
Okay, I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. The reason for that is tonight we're honoring our Masonic Lodge, our Masons here in town, with a couple of neat community items that they have helped us out with. So we're moving that motion to accept their donation tonight to the first part of the meeting so that those folks can not have to endure the rest of the meeting tonight. So that's why we're doing that. So any discussion on that? And roll, please.
Powell.
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Picken.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. So, we have a motion tonight to accept the donation of $2,000 from the Pataskala Masonic Lodge number 404 for the installation of concrete at the Foundation Park ball fields dugout bench areas. Moved by Mr. Hicken and seconded by Mr. Barstow. Any discussion? Well, before we vote, I just want to thank you folks. When I first got on as mayor, I came to one of your meetings, and it was the first time I'd been to a Mason's Lodge. It was very educational. I enjoyed it immensely. I now immensely enjoy the first Saturday of every month when you guys have your pancake breakfast. It is superb food, and I tell everybody about it. And in fact, I've got a sign that I put in my yard, so everybody knows that it's the first Saturday. But I also had approached a couple of your members about a year ago and told them that I had an idea about getting the our current way of collecting United States flags for retirement was a crate that was sitting on the floor out in the lobby. And good intentions, it was a Boy Scout project, I'm sure, but at some point it was brought to my attention that we were putting the flags basically on the floor. And I thought of, I'd gotten the idea of purchasing an old mailbox and making that into a spot that we could respectfully put the flags, but found that the company that makes them for the postal service wants $800 or $900 for a post office box. So luckily, the good Lord steered me in the right direction, and I found on Craigslist an old box that has been used at Eastland Shopping Center to put Santa Claus letters in. So got it for the amazing price of $200, which the Masons, your ladies group, what's your ladies group called?
Stars. The Eastern Stars.
The Eastern Stars, okay. Jean Peters, I believe, her group gave me some money, and you guys did too, and we purchased the box, and I took it to Branham Sign Company, and of course you saw it when you came in today. Much better way to respect our veterans and retire our flags. So I thank you for that, and again, thank you for the money for the concrete so that the kids can sit there in the dugout and cheer their team on and have their feet nice and dry on some good concrete. So appreciate it very, very much. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank you guys. I know you guys do a lot for the community, a lot of things behind the scene, and then obviously this, but it's greatly appreciated, and everything you guys do does not go unnoticed. Thank you.
I also want to thank you. My dad and my grandfather were Masons, and my grandmother and my aunt were part of Eastern Stars, so I know a lot of time goes into that. My dad was part of the Tasklo group for a long time before his health was, keeps him from worn out. But I just thank you for everything, because I know the time you put in, and I know the heart that you put into your community. So thank you very much.
And I mentioned in the prayer that most of you may not know that, as you said, Councilman Lee, behind the scenes, these are the folks that clean up the trash at our street fair and keep this Main Street looking beautiful during those 4 or 5 days, and that is not a fun job.
Or a small one.
Or a small one. And in fact, I was struggling a little bit with the fireworks cleanup, and again, the Masons stepped up and said, we will do the dirty work. And that's just amazing to me. Lots of people like to do the fun stuff and get all the glory and get their picture in the paper and blah, 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 but you folks, except for that pancake breakfast now, that's really good. So, but thank you for all your things that you do here in the city. So without any other further discussion, we'll vote.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Picken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
And you're free to go. If you'd like to stick around, that's fine. We'll get into the meat and potatoes of the meeting, but you're free to go. Thank you very much. First Saturday of the month, 8 o'clock to 11, pancake breakfast. Little commercial there. Thank you. Oh, wow, okay, hey, nobody had accepted the check, so thank you very much. Did you want to why don't we get a picture?
Yeah, why don't we get a picture of you guys? All the guys walking around. That'd be great.
That's the camera shy group right there.
Pay to the order of Mike Compton, Cancun Fund. It keeps growing, it keeps growing. Okay.
Yeah, you can't make us look any better.
Come on in, guys.
It's not a.
I'll get in the middle and you guys flank me on each side there.
We got a guy in the back here, don't hide.
We need one of them big cardboards. You can check with them.
Squeeze a little bit.
Just come back here, Chief. Come around.
Pass it over to you,
How's that looking, DJ?
Looks good. Look over here now. Is it on?
Think so. Yeah, on button's on.
Just push hard.
Check and make sure I got it. I pushed the button, I'm not sure.
That'll work.
That's okay.
Whatever you got, guys.
When I've got some, I can look for Sunday guys.
Yeah, I was looking for something down low.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Thank all of you. Appreciate it very much.
John?
I won't line him up again. No, we'll just have him send it. Yeah, does that work? Okay.
Officially turning it over to Jamie Nicholson, Finance Director.
All right, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Chief, you're up next. Chief Majors, West Licking Fire. Little presentation for us tonight, sir?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
So at the end of each year, we do a little review of kind of highlights of what the district did throughout the year, some of the runs we had that impact the community and ourselves. So we wanted to try to get out to all the entities that we work with, give them a quick idea of what else is going on with the fire district. And, yeah, I need that one. So, I don't mind bragging a little bit, so if I slow down, I talk too much about us, then just speed me up, so.
You have all the time in the world, sir.
That's just a quick look at our 2017 board from all the entities that we have. We actually have 7. New Albany doesn't have a seat yet. They will here, now that they're starting to do a lot of building in our area. I'm sure they will. This year, we had our Jersey Township trustee, Derek Myers, retired after being on the board for 20-plus years. So it was a big milestone for us all, and it'll be weird. It's been different this year not having Mr. Derek sitting on the board. It's been a long time. Some of the highlight things that we had through out last year was some pretty major storms that happened in July. And July 10th was the first one where we did, and it hit us for about a 4-hour period. We had 14 runs, 5 reported structure fires, and 1 working fire. Reported fires are usually just an arc or something, a lightning strike, where it doesn't take a lot of us to mitigate the problem, along with, you see with the picture, the working fire starting to do a little more damage to the structure. The next one went right into the next shift day, so it was the same shift. On the 13th, we got hit by the heavy floods. 42 runs we had that time. During that time, 31 of them were in an 8-hour period during that storm. It was a pretty busy time for us. We did set up, and we'll talk a little bit in the next one about an EOC that we set up and how we worked with the city and the PD. But we had 10 water-related runs. 1 of them turned in, we had to do an actual rescue. A lot of times the water will recede pretty quick. We don't always have to go out there after them. At the same time, there was a lot going on in Hebron, so that kind of hampered what we were doing because the resources were limited. So all the boats from our county water team were already deployed out in Hebron. So we managed to pull 1 boat into our area and execute a couple of our water rescues. With that, we've been practicing, and we've talked over with BJ and Chief Brooks about an EOC that we set up on the west side when we get really busy. So everybody came in from the city, every entity that we covered, eventually a representative stopped in, and we set up our own little dispatch center at Station 1 in our training room. That helped pull a lot of the workload away from the county dispatchers, but also allowed us to get on our own channels and handle our own emergencies without having a bunch of other departments on there talking at the same time and trying to battle for that. So that worked out very well. They sent us 2 dispatchers that just sat there at our station and handled the call volume. Why myself and then Chief Brooks was in there where we were deploying the resources. They were just letting us know where the runs were, what was going on. It worked out very well. The fireworks is always a big event. One thing that we do at the fire district is anything that we're aware of that's gonna have 500 citizens or more involved, we always do an incident action plan and prepare for the worst as far as that incident goes. One of our biggest events to plan for also is the fireworks. We brought EMA in and everything, the fireworks. The biggest thing with the fireworks was the communications has gotten so much better with the MARC system. That allows us and the PD to get inside that park, get on our own channel, be able to talk and communicate to each other, which is something we hadn't been able to do real well in the past. And that's been working real well for us. Also, along with the PD, whoever's in the park can handle the run, so we're not having to call trucks from the stations to come into the park. We handled six quick runs in there, were basically first aid type runs, and that was the 6 times that we didn't have to pull a medic in off the street to come into the park. We had our crew inside and handled all those calls, so it worked out real well for us. Keep our crews outside in service for everybody outside. We had a good year for grants in 2017. We got about 35,000, I think, a little bit over in grant money that year. So it was a good year for us in grant. We worked constantly trying to get grants and get everything that we need for EMS. Through the BWC's, a lot of safety grants we can get to. The Shriners help us out real well with thermal imagers. And then we also got a $10,000 donation for our own UTV. We got a little jealous. Chief Brooks had one, so we had to get one too. So we would have a UTV also when it comes to these events that we have, like the fireworks and the street fair. Our EMS side of things, we put a lot of time in our EMS. It's our busiest thing. It's our trucks. It does probably 80% of our call volume. We took delivery of 3 new medics. It was supposed to be 2, but Ford's chassis got a little behind schedule, so supposed to be 1 in 16, 2 in 17, but we ended up getting 3. Some of the things we did this year is we participated in a stroke blood draw program with Mount Carmel East. What that allowed us is we drawed all the blood for stroke patients on the way to the hospital. So when we got to the ER, if we suspected a stroke, we walked in, handed off the blood to somebody from the lab, and they immediately took the blood to the lab to see what was going on as far as coagulation, how quick the blood was thickening up or if it was too thin, so that they would know what kind of treatment to do. So there was a 20.6% faster for everybody out of this area going into Mount Carmel East to get treatments for stroke, which is huge when it comes to brain damage and getting some oxygen back to those areas before there's a lot of permanent damage. We're also getting ready to start trying, if that was so successful, there's an app that Mount Carmel East is putting out that we're also going to be involved in. We'll be able to transfer a ton of patient information off this app to the hospital prior to us getting there, so treatments can happen that much faster. Along with that, one of our goals has been survivability of our cardiac arrest. We have what we call a cardiac arrest survival plan. And as far as VFib goes, so this doesn't include anything traumatic, injuries from like an auto accident or anything, or drug overdoses. This is true cardiac related events, which they call VFib, ventricular fib, where the heart's just kind of out of control, flopping around. We really focused on our CPR with our plan, reducing response times and everything that we can to increase it. So we had a 50% survivability rate with our Witness VFib in 2017 for cardiac arrest, which is huge. And we've been working towards that goal for the last couple of years. We weren't sure in the beginning. We started out at about 16%, but with the research and getting the more equipment that we need and reducing response times and everything, we were able to in 17 have that at 50%. So we were pretty excited about that.
Chief, nationally, as you know, Seattle's always been a forefront for that.
Yes.
Where would you say that puts us nationally?
Right with them. So they're running around 50%. So nationally, we're right in there with them on the VFib. The Lifeline Award. So this is something from American Heart Association. A lot of departments get this award. It's how quick you get people to the lab, recognizing a heart attack and get them in to get them treatment. And the reason we find it such a big deal for us is because of it's all about time. So for us, we don't have hospitals that are all that close. So we had to make a lot of adjustments to be able to get our patients to the hospital just a little bit quicker to make up for the difference that we have in our response times and transport time to the hospital, which is the biggest one. Station 4, which is out on Taylor Road, they can get there pretty quick. But when you get into downtown Pataskala, Station 2 and Station 3, depending on traffic, it can be almost a 30-minute transport time to a hospital. So we send more trucks so that we can get patients loaded up quicker, while other guys are doing things and doing reports, gathering information. There's also crews to go ahead and start loading patients. And by increasing that time, we were able to get this the Silver EMS recognition from American Heart, so we're pretty proud of that. We did have a citizen life-saving recognition. This was a Columbus police officer that was off duty. We recognized him on May 2nd of 2017. He actually, at about 2 o'clock in the morning, it's pitch dark, it was good May weather like we have in Ohio like today. He in pitch dark, in the darkness, climbed down an embankment into a creek where he seen a car upside down, went into the creek at about 4 feet of water, and grabbed the patient and held his head above water while waiting on us to get there. After he's the one that called 911, went down in there, held the patient's head above water so we could get there in the middle of the night like that. So we want to really recognize him, because that was very, very brave thing, be able to wade through that water and climb into that car. He actually had to get underwater to get inside the car and back up to do his thing. So it was pretty amazing what he did. We did have some unfortunate things. One of those was our Pinekirk incident. That incident alone took every personnel that we had on duty, 31 mutual aid from 10 different departments. The biggest hurdle that we ran into there was all those patients needed to go somewhere. And then we needed to kind of move them out of there and get them somewhere pretty quick. So it took us about an hour to find somewhere to locate everybody and get everybody out of that. In the meantime, it was such a large-scale event, took all of our on-duty personnel. We had to bring in mutual aid to help cover our day-to-day runs. We have great working relationships with our departments around us. They automatically did that without us having to ask. As soon as the call came in, they seen what was going on, they seen all of our trucks heading that way. They just started sending trucks to our stations and staffed our stations for us until we could get control of the scene and then bring in some off-duty folks to come in and help carry those runs. So it's great to have those working relationships going on when you do have unfortunate incidents like that. There's, talked a little bit about our EMS, but here's our fire stats. So we had 28 actual fires last year. 13 of them never left the area of origin, so they were in, that's all about the response time. So whatever room they were in, that's where we contained those fires at. Our total fire loss was at $655,000. That sounds big, but it's pretty good when you talk about having 13 homes on fire at an average of about $200,000 a home. So we're getting there quick like we need to, getting these fires knocked down pretty fast. And we were excited once we got these stats back from our prevention, who runs us through a national reporting system. And once they can get these stats and work these numbers, we were pretty excited about that. That's just a quick rundown that we hand out at our meetings. So that breaks everything down to the township, the city. It just gives you an idea of what kind of stats. So overall, we did a little over, the number on the left for totals all runs. So we did a little over about 5,600 runs for the year. And that's how well we can break it down. So any stats anybody needs, you'll let us know. We can really break down to, we have zones within the city. So that just shows the city, but the city's broke up into several zones. We can narrow down to a zone of what kind of runs and how many runs we had in those areas. And I can always get copies, I think Councilman Hickey probably already has some copies.
I think I sent them to everybody.
That gives you an idea. So that's our district as a whole. Those are all, when I talk about zones, we break down as many zones as we can to figure out who's the fastest truck. And that's who we send. So the more zones you have, the more accurate that your dispatching will be to get the closest truck on scene. So we break these down every year. It's tough on the dispatchers, the dispatch center, and Assistant Chief Krause who handles that. But ideally, you'd have every square mile as a zone. But I won't quite go that far. But we'll keep crunching them down until we get them as accurate as possible to get the best time and response times that we can. Everything that we do is all based off of response time to how quick we can get there to mitigate the situation as fast as possible. We had a pretty outstanding thing that went down in 2017. So when you look at the picture down the right, the gentleman on the left, he went into kidney failure, and he was about ready to start having to get dialysis and was really getting in bad health. His partner ended up being a match for him, which is Lieutenant Allward in the middle. So Lieutenant Allward gave one of his kidneys to his partner, and they went over to OSU for a transplant. And Seth did really well from the transplant. He's not quite back to work yet, but he's really getting close. The next couple months, he'll probably be back to work. So we were really proud of Lieutenant Allward stepping up and getting tested and being willing to give up a kidney for his partner. So it's a pretty big deal. All the folks that you see on the other picture on the left was that's everybody that met those two at the hospital about 4 in the morning to wish them well on the adventure they were about to take on. We sent 3 of our chief officers to Officer 3 and 4 training. That is one of the first ones that ran through the Ohio Fire Academy. We was recognizing those. Those are all. That would be Chief Kraus, and Assistant Chief Trenish, and myself went through that training. It was about 6 months worth of training. There's our Station 2 project. It is now open. We're going to do an open house, I believe, on May 9th to show off the facility now that it's done and open. So that was the ARC Fitness Center that we got and refurbished it to be a firehouse. It turned out really well. That's just a couple quick pictures. That's the Bay Area. It's pretty big. It took 120 days to get it done, and a total of about a little over 12,000, 14,000 square feet. But it also came with a house that we're turning into a training house, that we're building props and everything in it, so we can go there and train as ponds. We were able to do ice rescue training during the winter in our ponds, and there's also a large concrete slab out there where we were able to bring in a whole bunch of vehicles and do auto extrication training for all the shifts. So we were able to leave them there for a couple weeks, so as they got time to get out there and do their trainings, they were able to get there and leave them on site. So it's worked out great for that. We promoted almost 6 lieutenants in 2017. We had a lot of retirements and a lot of growth, so we're pretty young right now. After this month, our senior battalion chief will have about 2 years in the seat as a battalion chief, so we got a lot of great young officers. So we're pretty excited to start working with a lot of the great young officers. And here's a couple more of the lieutenants that we promoted in 2017. Like I said, a total of 6. And every time we promote, we replace them with some firefighters. So we hired, I think, 7 actually firefighters this year between retirements and promotions. There's a couple of our retirees. This is John Singleton. Well, some of you may have worked with John when he was one of our prevention officers. He got a recognition from the state fire marshals. John was pretty active, and so when he retired, it was a lot. We lost a lot there. What they're showing here on the left, so where his name is, that's on the back of your coat. So when you retire, they put your coat on like a plaque, and you walk over and take it off your coat and stick it up on the plaque on your last day of retirement there. This is a firefighter Beck. He's getting ready to put his on there. So that was another retirement that we had in 2017. What this is a quick thing. These are some ideas that came up that our guys all designed. And we're pretty excited about it because they're really great ideas that are starting to spread throughout. With the one that says a knot board, so that's just one of our Lieutenant Allward came up with that to practice our knots. We do a lot of low angle rescue stuff. So it's just a picture of the knot with a piece of rope where the knot's already tied in so that you can look at the knot, retie it, make sure you're doing things correctly. We did that and the word got out and a couple people looked at it. So this knot board now is out in some Columbus firehouses, out in Licking County in some firehouses, and CTEC has about 5 of them in their building for their students when they're going through fire school. The bottom left is the door devices from Lieutenant Lowe to design those that most people are pretty aware of, which was pretty good. The one on the right there, and that one they just got out this winter, and we got to get training with a lot of the law enforcement on that idea there. So that is something we stick on windows of a car. So during a heavy storm out on I-70, we can have 7, 8 cars, 4 or 5 cars on Broad Street that are down in the ditch, and we could continue calls on them. So that will stick on the window, And each one of those triangles, they'll write how many victims were in the car, how many of them got transported, what hospitals they transported to, and what trucks transported them. So that, one, if law enforcement, because they get busier than we do taking reports, they can take their time, and when they get there, they can walk up to that window and it'll tell them everything they need to know to track down the person and the driver of that car. And it'll tell them which truck transported, and they'll know what station to go to find out who did the transport. So that was a Lieutenant Moon that come up with that system. And the fob system is something we designed at West Licking, our EMS committee, for two reasons. The biggest one is medics are being stolen now. If you see that out on the street while the cars are running, people like to jump in and take off. And also in the fire station. So that's a fob system. So to get in any of our medic trucks, you gotta have a little fob
That's cool.
that you swipe, and then it'll unlock the door so that you can get in and take off. So we did that as a great idea for us, and made a company some pretty good money when they installed that and shared it. So it was a pretty good idea for a lot of people, and it's working out real well for us to keep things a little more secure. Look ahead, we're trying out a new type of truck. We're calling it a quick response vehicle. It's gonna go in Station 4, which is on Taylor Road. Big neighborhood area. We have a hard time getting our big trucks through there with people parking on the side of the roads. And sometimes I can't even get my pickup truck through there. So it's a big problem. So this truck will be like a fire truck about the size of a medic. It'll have 300 gallons of water. It'll have foam on board. And the pump will be the same size as a regular fire truck pump. So it'll be able to pump the water. So with the hydrants in that area, we're hoping it'll be able to get through the neighborhoods a little bit easier and a little bit quicker. And with the hydrant locations in there, once they hit the hydrant, it'll be as functional as any size fire truck once it gets in there.
What kind of chassis is that on then, like a pickup truck?
550.
Okay.
It's the exact same chassis as our medics. And Station 5. Station 5 is going to be a big deal for a lot of people. Morse Road, just west there at Main Street. It'll be big for the city down in that northern area of Pataska, down there in Brooks Edge and Licking Heights High School and areas like that. So being able to run up and down Morse Road is really going to cut some response times. We're figuring right now probably 50% cut them in half up in that area, in the northern area. We just had a battalion chief that was at this station when an auto accident came in on Main Street, and he was there in a little over 2 minutes, where normally that'd been about probably a 7-minute or 8-minute response. So it'll be huge. It'll make a big difference when we get that up and running. So that was the end with Mr. Beck's retirement picture there. And do you have any questions? Hope I didn't go too fast.
Any
there.
questions or comments for the chief?
That's great.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, no questions, just comments and a little bit of perspective. I just want to thank you guys, and please pass on to the guys that tremendous asset to the city. Constantly see you guys out doing programs and at the schools and all the stuff above and beyond the runs, and that we all know that you're taking. But just I guess some professional perspective for council. My department's 20 minutes away, but we're in the same region, and very rarely do we end up on mutual aid, but it does happen from time to time. But what my point is that regionally, these guys are very, very well respected. They're doing a lot of things like the strokes and the CPR stuff that's above and beyond and on the cutting edge. And just you guys are doing a really good job, and we appreciate it in the city, the district, I guess, more than the city. Lucky to have you guys.
Thanks.
And top-notch people. Know a lot of the firefighters out there. Great, great people. And we're lucky to have you. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would echo that. I'm honored to be a small part of it. You guys do a great job.
Any other comments? Well, I just, when it was kind of funny, I know I shared this with BJ, because when you guys came to the fireworks and set up for the first year, and we had the trauma and the first aid and EMA and all that, it's kind of a nice little run up to, because like a week later we had the flood.
Yeah.
And we had all kind of been practicing and working on if we ever had a tragedy like that, or a natural disaster that we had to attack. So I thought that was cool. And I think a lot of people appreciated the fact that we had those folks at the fireworks, because it's obviously time with that many people. that are there, so. And I appreciate you coming to the power show and all the other things you do, so. Yep, we're very well protected. I'm our first responders, West Licking, this is great, the new station, it's all great, so. Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak tonight? Mhm. I don't think we have anybody speaking, so. Jamie, I think you have something for us today.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Margaret Feldmeyer, who joined us today as our new accounting clerk.
Come on up, come on up. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Margaret Feldmeyer. I have been in business for myself for 18 years, and I'm giving that up to come and join you people.
Wow,
Yes.
very good.
Excited. I'm very, very happy to be here. Jamie and Janice have been wonderful, and I really appreciate the job. It's wonderful.
Very good.
I'm glad
Good.
you're
Well,
here.
welcome
Thank
aboard.
you.
Yep, thank you.
Welcome. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go home now too. All right. Anything else from the public tonight? Okay. Introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Hicken. Sounded like you threw your voice there for a minute there. Any discussion? Kathy, roll, please.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Consent agenda passes. Okay, on to reports. I won't steal all your thunder, but what a great first soccer Saturday. I came out and you had everything under control, and people were coming up asking where was their coaches, where was their game, where was their field, and you were right on it, so congratulations and.
It was
And,
successful, thank you.
Good weather too.
And,
That was
uh,
perfect.
One day,
Yeah,
It was perfect.
one day.
squeezed all those games in before one, didn't you?
Yep.
Yep,
Started raining at
Right.
1:45 when we were cleaning up.
very
It
good.
was perfect.
Not that
Very
you
good.
were counting.
Congratulations. Rotary wanted me to announce that we're going to be celebrating Arbor Day on the 26th at 12 noon, and we're going to be planting a tree right back here at Carr Park. So you're all invited if you should happen to have that day and that time open. It was good to see Suzanne's article in the paper about your business. Congratulations. Mr. Hicken?
Thank you, Mayor. I have two items. One, Chief Majors mentioned, and that's the reminder that May 9th is Station 2's open house. I don't know if he said when it starts, for some reason I think it's a
Did you not say?
rather long day affair, so anytime late morning to early afternoon, if you wanted to head over there, they could show you Station 2. It is extremely interesting and came about by some thinking out of the box, so we were pretty happy to do that. The other one is, I went back and I was looking at my last email. I know at the last council meeting, I had set a deadline for evaluations, and I got some crossways looks, and I figured out why, because I was wrong. So if you, this is just a reminder, I know I told everybody they were due like a week ago or 2 weeks ago Friday. That wasn't true. Technically, they were due last Friday. So if you haven't gotten them to me yet, just a reminder, get them in. Some people have them done, some people don't yet, but kind of a reminder, get them to me as soon as possible. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Zetz?
Nothing tonight, Mayor?
Mr. King?
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me, a couple items. First thing is Resolution 2018-022 that is on the agenda this evening. I would like, or I do request that that gets tabled. We are still working with ODOT to firm up the number of what our share is. Originally, it came at 150, as you see here, 150,000. ODOT looking at, they've maxed out their grant share. We're probably looking more like a 204, but we're looking to see what is left in the right-of-way acquisition money that may be able to be transferred over to that. We have till May 18th to get this approved. I wanted to get it done, but having it approved by May 18th will not delay the project at all. So I do request that that gets tabled tonight, and we'll have a new resolution on May 7th to amend by substitution. The second thing I want to mention is just the Masons, their donation. When Rainier and I reached out to the community about, if anybody wanted to help spruce up the baseball fields a little bit by getting some concrete placed underneath the bench areas, because that was one of the things we heard is when it rains, it gets really muddy. We reached out to the community, and they certainly, within a day or so, called us and said they were interested in doing that. So thank you to them, and look forward to having that installed also by volunteers. So it'll be a great project all around. Fire department, the only thing I want to say about that is I've truly enjoyed getting to know those guys. We've increased our communication with them. As you guys know, we did the emergency response training. Chief Majors and I and other staff members, as we see available, meet once a month with them have a cup of coffee, just so everybody's on board, what's going on, whether it's looking at cul-de-sac sizes or any issues there may be that's just, leads to a much better community with everybody's input on it. So really appreciate those guys. Police station is moving along just fine. Even with the weather, they had 7 weather days in March that they missed, but we found out at the last meeting, or the last progress meeting last week, that they are back on schedule with it. Things are moving along. I do feel better that we have footers in the ground and block going up, because a lot of times you'll start to see some of the issues occur with the underground work, not knowing what the soils are. We've had no problems so far to date, so everything's moving along just fine. And sorry, didn't mean to steal any thunder there, but it's an exciting project, and I just hope those guys get some nice sunny warm weather soon to work in, because they've been working through everything up to this point. Main Street easements, talked to Chad Miller, both Alan and I have. They have 9 easements, they have 9 left. Talked to Chad today to see what their plan was moving forward for those. Asked some pretty directed questions, and said, hey, how often are you reaching out to people? He said they're reaching out once a week. And I said, well, keep in mind that we're going to be inviting you to an upcoming council meeting, probably the next one, to answer some questions. So I certainly recommend that you emphasize this project a little more, getting in front of council. He said of the 9 remaining, there are 7 that they believe that they'll be able to get with no problem. There's one that they would like us to remove a pole, an old pole or something that's in. I think it's already done, so that's taken care of, so they'll be signing. There are 2 against the project so far, so I know some council members have mentioned their willingness to reach out, and I'll be talking to those folks to see if we can get out and visit them for those. One of the issues with one person being against them is the transformers that'll be out there. They're worried about kids crawling on them and getting on them and everything, and the other one is just against the project, so it's gonna take some work with them. The house at Lincoln Broad had several discussions with the Shelley Company. They are getting a new bid, new prices from their contractor to tear their house down, and I anticipate having those sometime this week and having that scheduled in the foreseeable future. And I am happy to answer any questions council may have.
Yes, ma'am.
I have 2. First, please reassure me about the Taylor Road project. It's all good, right?
It's all good.
Everything's okay.
It is all good. The only reason I'm asking for it to be tabled is to make sure we have the right amount when we approve it, so we don't have to come back to council and pass another resolution to replace the one, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. We're still on schedule. I think we were talking about going out to bid.
I can't say, I think it's scheduled for June right now.
Yeah, but it's just a matter of getting the final number from ODOT. So there's no risk in the project or anything, so.
Because I may need some of those first responders to rescue me from my neighborhood
Oh,
if something goes south with that.
It's
So-
happening, it's happening, so.
And the second question I have, and this is kind of for both you and the chief, I think I shared something, the chief, I've seen some weird Facebook things about the house, and that a movie was being shot there, and it was posted that we had permission, which, to be there and shoot this movie. So have we had any problems with people being in the house, or?
Lincoln Broad, we haven't had any issues at all. There was a company that reached out and said, hey, can we spend a day in there getting some shots and that sort of stuff, and it's a local company, they presented us with their insurance and everything,
Okay.
but we haven't had any issues with, people being in, that I'm aware of. You guys would know better, so, no.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Well, on the Lincoln Broad, I do see cars parked in the yard there frequently, and I also noticed that all the windows had been removed, the glass, is that just part of the?
It had, the
Down.
windows
Okay.
had glazing on them that had asbestos in it, so it was part of the asbestos
I
mitigation.
figured it was, I assumed it was, I was
Yeah.
assuming the best. Okay, yeah, just like to get that thing torn down, because it's, we own it now, and
I
it's,
agree.
it's an eyesore and a danger.
There's one vehicle, have we addressed with the one tenant? There's, the person that lives next door was using that as a, joint driveway. So I think have we reached out to him to tell him that obviously he won't be able to? Okay.
Yeah, there's a car parked up near the
Behind the garage.
garage, yeah, this morning when I drove.
Neighbor has parked in the past a car behind that old garage too.
That won't be happening anymore.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
BJ, real quick question on the two items that have to do with the project out there for the ramp. You're looking for the engineering,
Yes,
and then you're also looking for the ability to bid it out.
Yes.
Can you describe why you're looking for those now rather than waiting to get the authority to bid it out after we get the engineering done? Obviously,
I would say expediency.
okay, because I think
It's all one contract is the way
it's under one contract, correct?
It is, it is.
Right.
You know, it will, and ultimately it will have to come back to council for the contract for the actual construction. Talking to law director Zatz, he recommended splitting out the design from the bidding.
Okay.
But it is all one contract covered under one, just two pieces of legislation. As far as why are we doing both now, expediency, so we have everything in place and we have it good.
The only caution that I give, and this is just through the streets committee discussions, is we are going to be we will be engineering probably more than what can be bid out, just from the budget point of view, depending on when it comes out. I'm just hopeful that that's recognized, or at least maybe the streets committee can weigh in on that once we get this engineering through.
Yeah, and streets committee will remain updated on the engineering progress and everything throughout.
Yes, sir.
Mr. King, can you tell me a little bit about 2018, 018, and 019? I'm sorry, 019 and 020.
Yeah, the annual CHIP legislation, if you guys remember last year, Rob Platt representing the Licking County Planning Department came and spoke to us and asked if we were interested in partnering with the county for the annual CHIP program. What the annual CHIP program is it provides funding for some housing rehabilitation for those who qualify for it. With this, similar to last year, this is not requiring the city put any funds forward. City doesn't have to do any work on this. This is just saying that we'll partner with the county to manage the project. Last year, the county did not get funding awarded. They're trying again this year, and this just says, hey, we'll be a partner in that, meaning that our community would be eligible for that if the funding does come through, but we don't have to do any work or dedicate any money towards it.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, BJ, I was reading about the CHIP program. Who, it says in here, and I'm looking for it real quick here, as I was gonna ask it as we were voting on it, but it says in here that, under, 3D and F, keeping financial records, it talks about a financial officer in accordance with the Office of Management Budget. Is that us, or is that, it's kinda weird because the next E talks about generating these reports and giving it to the county.
That would be us.
So we do have to do some financial
On
work.
the finance side of things, yes. I think our last one was, I think in 2014 maybe. And if you may recall, MORPC was our coordinating agency. And so basically, they were the ones that got the bids for the home improvements and the pricing. And then basically, we just kind of ran it through our ledger. They reimbursed, they paid us for the work. But then I had to keep the financial records, and it's part of our federal, because it's federal pass-through money. So I have to report that as part of our single audit, the federal grant proceeds. So that's what they're talking about. I have to maintain those records, and we have the records back from 2011 and 12 programs as well.
What do you think that takes you time-wise? I
And
mean,
how many-
it says QuickBooks, that seems easy.
Well, I mean, we would run it through our ledger. When you get organized, it's not terribly difficult. Now that I've got a third person to help me, that may be on the to-do list. It's just staying on top of the paperwork. Because we have to run it's like any other grant money. We run the revenue and the expenditure, so we still have to have an appropriation. We figure out how much we've approved for it. If let's say it's $100,000, so we put $100,000 of grant revenue and $100,000 worth of spending, and then we run them through our ledger. But it's all managed through the county. They review, they manage the projects themselves. We're just handling it on some of the on the back end.
So it doesn't seem like it's that big a deal, 'cause it says in here, all administrative fees goes to the county, we don't get any of that.
It's not a terribly complex problem, it's more, as long as you're organized, and you have the files set up in the right way, you can get to it.
Okay.
It's not bad. The challenge sometimes is down the road, because what happens is, this is a 10-year lien, it's a 0% loan, in essence. So if you have a $30,000 improvement, you earn 10% of that knocked down every year. So if you sell your house, refinance in 5 years, that's a lien that's still out there. You have $15,000 that has to be settled as part of the closing process. And that money comes back to the city at that point. Even though it's federal funds to begin with, that's how the process works. The goal is to have people improve their homes.
Right.
You know, and I know one of the homes had got running water and sewer installed in the house, along with a roof and HVAC. I mean, it literally was a major project. And for most of these people, they're gonna live in the house. It's not a flipping kind of thing. It's, generally speaking, they're gonna live in the house for the time.
Anything else for Mr. King? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Nicholson?
Thank you, Mayor. We have two pieces of legislation on the agenda tonight. Resolution 2018-18, which is a replacement copier lease for the police station. You may recall last year, we came off cycle for the administration, zoning, and the council clerk's copier came up, and council approved those three. Due to the timing when PD had one more year on their old lease, when we first started this, so we had to wait a year for it to go offline. So now they're on an off year with us. But this resolution would authorize us to enter a contract with Tonic Minolta for a replacement copier. And it's an operating lease, so at the end of we just swap out copiers and get a new lease for the next 4 years. So we run deal with used copiers. The second thing is ordinance 2018-4319, and that would be a revision to our tax code. You may recall with the state taking over the centralization of net profits, and there was also the sales throwback rule. And I touched on it in my legislative report. Basically, it's where you recognize the revenue from sales. Usually, it's where you sell it from, but it looks like now it's going to be going to where it lands. So there's some differences in the accounting. So our tax code needs to be modified to amend that. And we're now at the stage where, you know, Rita and member municipalities have sued and not prevailed, and they asked for a restraining order or an injunction. That wasn't granted. So I think they're still going to proceed down the path, but at this point, in an abundance of caution, we're being advised to go ahead and amend the legislation, because, you know, on a 50-50 basis, I think it's probably going to keep going that way. So, and that's all I have.
And we're declaring an emergency on that tonight?
I didn't know we were. Is that what's in the legislation?
It is.
Yes,
Okay.
it says,
Do you recall why? I'm trying to remember why.
Just so we can get the change implemented and the
Yeah.
code be updated as soon as possible. I mean, it's what Reed has recommended, it's
Yeah.
what the law is now until, like Jamie said, the injunctions have failed, the lawsuit, was not, we did not, I mean, the municipalities didn't prevail, it's on appeal, like Jamie said, it's writing maybe on the wall, so. And inside the legislation, I mean, there are like covenants or conditions, if you will. If for some reason the entire thing gets flipped around on appeal and we don't need to do it, I mean, council will go ahead and, I mean, we'll be undoing it all, but I think it's an emergency because we should get the tax code changed.
Yes, sir.
well, just a couple things. First of all, on the state hasn't completely taken over the collection because for sole proprietors, you can't use the Ohio Business Gateway.
Right.
Because I tried.
Really?
Yes, I tried last week. I thought, hey, this will be fun. I won't have to fill out, you know, all these tax forms for all these different cities. Nope, gotta do Newark, Whitehall. So, anyway, just FYI. But also, I think we're getting close to when we wanna put out our proposed schedule for, we're getting close to, proposed schedule for our budget, workup, so start thinking about that, and throw that out there so we can see that and then start planning for our, we traditionally do an extra meeting, I think in September, we look at that. That's it.
I'll sit down with BJ and we'll.
Right,
kind
that's
of
it, yeah,
work through the schedule.
sure.
Typically, we get started on budget stuff in June, so I would say maybe a finance committee in May.
Right,
To be able to review.
yeah, just to take a look at that, yeah. It's getting,
It's quickly approaching.
It'll be here sooner than we think.
Yeah, we just now have a draft of our 2017 CAFR report that we're in the process of reviewing. So we're just wrapping that up and on into budget.
On we go.
Before we get there.
Our next meeting will be in May.
Yes.
Next council meeting.
Anything else for Jamie? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nate?
Good evening. A couple things I'll add that's not in my report. Several meetings ago, well, maybe it was February. I just realized we're staring down the gun of May already. We're getting the bid out in the next couple weeks. Well, it's actually getting posted this week for the well cleaning project at Water Plant 1 with a bid opening, I think Thursday, May 3rd. So anticipate some good bids for that. And then to pique a certain individual's interest, we are moving product when Mother Nature cooperates. We probably have about, my estimate, about 530 tons of product. When it was nice last week for about 2.5 days, I think we maybe got a third of it out. But this week is not looking good. Maybe next week we can finish moving it and then hopefully apply the last week of April. That's the hope.
Right now you have frozen product.
Yeah, this is crazy weather, not cooperating, so, but the good thing is, it just puts everybody behind, so it's not like the farmers are gonna do something before us, so, yeah, so, other than that, be happy to answer any questions. Creek Road, and I was gonna ask Tim, I know when we sent out the notice the first time around, you got a couple calls, I got 2 calls on it. The letter that we sent out, just kinda telling them that hopefully they were gonna start mobilizing this week, but with today's weather, I'm sure they're not moving any equipment on site. So as soon as we know for sure, just in case you get some calls, I'll give you a shout.
Appreciate that.
But once they get cracking on that, it should go pretty quick and smooth. And that was one of the concerns that somebody had asked again, even though it was in black and white, we're not doing open cut, they were worried about a tree.
Directional boring.
Yeah, we're gonna directional bore all that except for where the hydrants will be. Those will be sending and receiving pits. And where we've laid that out, we should be good except for one bush that we haven't quite confirmed what type it is yet, so the homeowner there is aware, so.
Good.
Other than that,
Anything else for Nate? Alan?
Thank you, Mayor. A few things tonight. One, we've already talked about resolutions 021, 22, and 23. Happy to answer any further questions about those. A couple of notifications. Blacks Road, right there where Legacy Estates comes out onto Sport Boulevard comes out. Next week, they're going to be closing that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We're putting public notice out either tomorrow or Wednesday, even though that's not technically in the city. I figure we would put it on our website and Facebook, let people know. The Columbia Road culvert, that's the one just south of Mill. The contractor will be in next week to finish up the paving on that. So I don't know that we'll close that, but we'll certainly put out a notification, let people know to expect delays. We were able to get some survey work done last week. One Oak Meadow Drive potholed the water line and got the locations for it, got that surveyed in, so design is moving forward on that. And water line was in pretty good location for us for the most part, so shouldn't have any problems moving forward. Also got out and did some survey on Bristol Drive. Got that information today. I took a quick look at it. Looks like the under drain proposition may be feasible. Whether it's worth $120,000 plus or minus would be the next question we'll be discussing at the street committee. Mink Road Phase 2, the Shelley Company was awarded the bid for that. They came in at $4 million, which is about $150,000 under the engineer's estimate. So hopefully we can move forward with that and have a little bit more savings. That would be great. The last thing I want to mention, I put a new section in my report about log jams. I've got several calls recently and taking a look at several log jams. Of course, with the emerald ash borer causing some dead ash trees, with the intense rain events that we've been having, that's been eroding different parts of both of our rivers and causing trees to come down. Interesting thing with log jams is Nobody technically has the responsibility, there's more than one entity that has the the authority. We are one that does have the authority. The challenge for us is finding the funds for that and deciding which ones right now to remove. Priority for us are ones that damage or have the potential to damage infrastructure, bridges and such. So we're looking at getting a couple quotes from a couple contractors on what we would need to do to remove a couple of those, and using part of our tree removal budget for that, and then also trying to do some ourselves when we have the equipment and the comfort level to feel that we can do those safely. Aside from that, happy to answer any questions.
What's being done on Blacks?
The Legacy Estates subdivision that required 2 turn lanes, one
Okay.
on Watkins, one on Blacks. They're starting on a Blacks Road turn lane first. I'm not sure exactly what the work is. The county's coordinating for all that, being that it's in the township. But they did let us know it's gonna be closed, so we just wanted to put that notice out.
Very good. Anything else for Alan? Yes, sir.
Alan, I know under the parks, under the foundation park septic system,
Yes.
just noting that again to you to keep that is something that's gonna have to be done. I know, with the soccer and everything and being out there, you know, I'm seeing in the gravel parking lot, the wet area developing again, which to me means that the tank is filling and is maybe full. When it rains heavily, that's what happens. So, Lanier, that would be a suggestion, is to check that before your next weekend soccer match. But with that being said, obviously rainwater costs a lot of money to pump that down, so if we can keep that on the schedule.
Lanier and I talked about that last week, and we're gonna take a look at it and see what we need to do to get a couple proposals.
Good, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Alan, today notwithstanding with snow falling, how's your salt budget?
We didn't put any out today.
Will we have money left over?
We are currently looking at about roughly $40,000 remaining in the salt budget. The barns are mostly full. They were full before the last event we had. And I would hesitate to use any of that for anything else, being we never know what November and December are gonna bring. So not nearly the savings that we had last year.
Okay.
And you use any of that, we'll start in November with full barns, you'll have to use some of that to fill them completely up.
Potentially.
Anything else for Alan? Okay, very good. Scott?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of updates since my report went out. For the Planning and Zoning Commission, we had 2 applications that were proposed for the May 2nd meeting. It's likely one of those will be tabled. That would be application TCOD 18001. And that would be tabled at the request of the applicant. Again, the commission still has to formally table it, but they need to do a little bit of work on their application. So in my discussions with them, they said, I think we're gonna table this and then look for June to move forward with the project. And then for the Board of Zoning Appeals on May 8th, since the deadline, which was last Friday, we have 3 more applications that came in. And then did want to mention that the first steering committee for the Pataskala Comprehensive Plan will be on Monday, April 23rd, so a week from today, from 7 to 9, here in council chambers. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Scott? Yes, sir.
Hey Scott, I noticed over on, this for, obviously for your inspection division, but over on Columbia and First Street, there's a yellow building that has not weathered these last couple storms very well. And I'd say it's definitely down now. It's probably not gonna take much for it to be the rest of the way.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Say Columbian first.
Anything else for Scott? Thank you, sir. And introducing, for the first time, Lanier Crawford, Park Manager. Take it away.
All right, I got a few things on my list. This spring, we kicked off Saturday with about 448 participants for soccer. I spoke with Reynoldsburg today just to reach out to them and see how they were doing. And they have about 450. So our numbers are gonna increase over time. PTO at Kirkersville Elementary, they received a donation from us for fall registration. So that's something that will come out for their carnival. De-winterization went on for all of our locations. 2 of those issues were fixed by Crookshank. We also had an incident in the back at Carr Park where the valve couldn't be found. We found it, Nate and BJ and I went back there, and the water was frozen and unfrozen. We have a cracked tank. That's something that we'll have to repair over time during the process of, as soon as the weather breaks. And to give you guys a short-term goal that I would like to speak to you about, in regards to forming some partnerships or a sponsorship program for our parks. I'm unsure how to go about it, but Reynoldsburg does a sponsorship program, and it's something I can bring up to Mr. McGuire, since he's affiliated over there. It's something that can generate money for our programs, our parks, and also to give a little bit of local business marketing, I suppose, if we were to go that route.
Like banners on the fences?
Banners on the fences,
Okay.
sponsoring projects that, this Friday I'm meeting with a consultant to help devise a 5-year plan, based on the surveys that were given in 2016, and also the 5-year plan that was given for the levy. So I would use some of those to help devise a plan. So if we were to get a plan created by the consultant and actually have items on that list to be able to show the general public, maybe we could possibly get it out there, tell them what the project may look like, get feedback, maybe we can get some funds from local businesses and also general public. So
Very good.
that's about it.
Anything for, yes, ma'am?
A couple things, Lanier. Just a suggestion with that meeting, I would, really encourage you to look at the levy plan and make sure that, some of those things are considered. There was a lot of thought that went into that, especially with the west side
Yep.
and the parks being undeveloped. So I know you haven't heard me say that at all before, but it's important. And the other thing I want to ask you about, because this has been controversial and I've caught some grief over it, the gates during soccer
Saturdays.
Saturday were open?
Yes. I opened them on Saturday, not knowing that it was like a splat thing that it should not have been done. But looking at it and actually getting the feedback, Saturday, typically the parking lots are full until the game ends, and then they all leave and it fills up again. We didn't see that on Saturday. All 3 parking lots were used, and the congestion or the flow of traffic went both ways. So, I will take that as, do not open the gates again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
it's-
was never about the congestion really, as much as it was safety.
Yeah.
And and whether, God forbid you call it a road.
Yeah.
So my, suggestion would be to leave those gates closed.
Well, in council's direction was to leave the gates closed.
Yes,
Okay.
so, I was just curious, because I've been asked a couple times, and I appreciate it, thank you.
Slap on the wrist, that's fine.
No,
No,
I
it's,
learned. I know,
Okay.
I appreciate your
It's my
ownership.
3rd year and I still.
One question in regards to that.
Mhm.
The Easter egg hunt, they see thousands of people, thousands. We opened it this year. Unsure how it was, but with 450 compared to thousands, I'm not sure of the safety. Were there any near-death experiences to make that call? or-
Over time, the speed that has gone through the park,
Mhm.
is not reasonable, and why would we open the gate when there's thousands more people to be harmed versus leaving it shut? There's thousands of little kids running around out there, that's the time you close the gate.
Okay.
Safety, plain and simple. I mean, I would not have it on my conscience that a soccer player or a child hunting Easter eggs or anything else were hurt for convenience.
I get it.
yeah, and again, council's direction and recommendation from the Parks Board is leave them closed, so, council is not taking any action otherwise, so, for, this point moving forward, they will remain closed and won't be open for any events.
Just a further suggestion too, I would probably reach out to the participants for soccer, because by having them open on one Saturday, that's a license. That they would think that those gates are gonna be open and they're gonna be late to their soccer game. They're gonna be coming from the north, heading to wherever they need to get to, and it's gonna be your fault, or it's gonna be somebody's fault at the city. It'll be anybody they can find. basically that the gates are closed. So my suggestion is plaster it as much as you can everywhere you can to let people know that the gates will not be open again for use. That's just
We'll
a
work on a
suggestion.
message to get out,
Yeah.
through all of our means.
Yeah, to maybe to the coaches and let them know through the practices, and so, trust me, it's a big issue.
Anything else? Thank you, sir. Chief Brooks.
Actually, I have nothing tonight. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Well, he's being shy because we had a major bust this morning, two major arrests. I'm pleased to announce that Puxatawny Phil and Mother Nature were arrested this morning and charged with theft of a season and impersonating spring. So,
I literally wrote down, I started taking notes on questions.
Mayor, we had mentioned last meeting about Officer Ramsey, Detective Ramsey, and putting on a shooter's. Has that gone any further?
well, go ahead, Bruce.
Yes, Detective Sergeant Ramsey has said, yeah, he absolutely, and we're happy to come in and teach you guys the fundamentals. It's like a 4-hour class, so I think talking to the mayor, folks definitely don't want to spend that much time.
He did a wonderful job in less than 35 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
I can attest to that.
I asked him to get it down somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes, and he said he could do that. So,
I think we'll try to schedule that for maybe a council night, that we don't have any committee meetings, that we could be here, a half hour before the 7 o'clock hour, and I think you'll find it extremely enjoyable. We were talking about, there was only one. It was sponsored by the Lions and State Farm. I thought that he'd done two, but he'd only just done the one, so, but, yeah. Did you have a question, BJ?
No,
So we'll keep working on that. Yep. Okay, committee chair reports. Yes, sir.
We had a streets committee meeting on April 9th. Alan's gone through several of the items already that we covered, but there were 22 items that we went through that night. Long meeting that we did in expedited fashion. Some highlights are, again, the Oak Meadow Drive project, having 90% plans by mid-May. The proposal for, as we know tonight, the proposal for the ramp and getting that out for bid. I think that's about 6 to 8 weeks, roughly, for them to put the engineering plans together and then put it out to bid. So we're hopeful to impress upon them that we'd like to get it out to bid by July 4th. That would be very good. We talked about some other big items, had to do with the impact of Licking Heights School District, improvements to their local roads, to their improvements school-wise, and then the improvements possibly to supporting roads that have to occur. I believe that they're doing a traffic study to determine turn lanes, and we'll continue to work with them to work through some issues, either in adjacent intersections or even existing elementary school issues on Summit. Talked about the drainage issues over in Broadview Crossing, the two issues essentially, and understand that Alan and his group have met with the residents and have some proposed changes out there. I don't know if they've been accepted yet, but at least there's some ideas out there, which is good. Let's see here, we talked about the Cable Road up at the Licking Heights is being completed and smooth, but also that the additional entrance possibly on Mink was going to be looked at by the schools. Let's see here. We have an issue that's going to come in front of council eventually is the TS Tech is asking for a second entrance, essentially an exit, for their driveway on Taylor Road that has been recently built, was the old Jess Howard Park there. They've got a traffic study that came out that said they're not going to impact much of the traffic out there. But I think we have some questions that they're going to get back to us with. And one of them we had internally, or from the streets committee, is this was a zoning prohibited movement by zoning. I wanted to find out a little bit more before we were able to recommend to council, so I guess that's a yet to come discussion. As BJ mentioned, the Main Street easements were discussed at length. And then another large issue was the no parking signage on Depot Street. So I don't know if anything's been further discussed about that, but there's an issue with an existing apartment complex that is using the street parking for their tenants, as we understand, and the signs that are up say 2-hour parking, and it's not being adhered to. So obviously a problem for the businesses. We have our next meeting on May 14th at 4:30. Alan, do you have anything else to add to that report? Okay.
Mr. Lee?
Yes, I will try and be as brief as possible, but we had a Buildings and Grounds meeting tonight, and will probably be a little bit long, but one thing I would ask when I'm done is we're looking for council feedback on this, so please direct any comments towards BJ or I. If you think of them later, email us, please. So tonight, Buildings and Grounds, we met to discuss the renovation of Old Town Hall project, proposed project, and also city administration building office space. Old Town Hall, I can be pretty brief there. Basically, last committee meeting I gave kind of a scope of what we were thinking down there as a committee. That hasn't changed. We're still looking at moving utilities down there. Chamber is still wants to be down there, and then some type of a meeting space or what would you call downstairs? What's the best way?
It would be a community meeting space.
Just a community meeting space.
Anything, and also looking at some potential city file storage.
Yeah, storage down there as well. So that has not changed at all. Next meeting is on the 21st, and BJ will have us numbers, a plan, and also the status of the grant that was awarded for air conditioning down there. Again, the hope is whatever is decided there, and when I say decided, I mean that council's decided, we can get whatever those numbers are within that into our budget for next year. Ironically, Old Town Hall and the office space issue that we're having here, they're kind of one issue, or they're connected more than you would think. We need office space here. We have 3 new employees, and we have 1 vacant office, which is currently filled by Mr. Crawford. And I think Mel had brought this up a couple of meetings ago. It's a pretty good point that we really need to look at our own office space here, and we took that to heart. What we've come up with is a plan A and a plan B. If you have a C or a D, please let us know. Plan A, which we believe is the best option, would be to use 2F, which is at the far end of the hallway, currently rented by, or leased by COTC. It's the perfect place to do finance. It's got 3 offices in an area for a clerk. However, they're currently leasing it. Then that would open everything up upstairs for, we have, what, extra office? We'd be 1 heavy, I think.
Yeah.
That's plan A, that we think would work the best. We met with COTC today, and they are seeing if it works for them and if they can give up that space for the time being. What they had asked in return is that this is where it ties into Old Town Hall. Utilities moves out into Old Town Hall. They would like utilities area downstairs. They kind of wanted first shot at that, and we told them that would be an issue if this all pans out. So again, that's moving utilities down there. They would like an answer on that. And we gave it to them. I think we were pretty sure if council approves
Sure.
moving them down there, that they can have that. So that would be plan A. Plan B is more complex. The best thing that we could come up with, because again, we have 3 employees, and when I say 3, I'm counting HR, even though they haven't been hired yet. Best thing we could come up with is to divide this office in here, where Kathy's at, move the mayor downstairs, and Lanier would go to the mayor's office. The clerk would go to Lanier's office, and then we would take the closet beside Jess, which is storage. Then we're gonna do some IT stuff that would allow us to move storage down behind Jamie, and then the HR would go by Jess. Temporarily, until, again, coming back to Old Town Hall, utilities could go down there when the police station's done, and then we could move finance down there. That is the quick version of that, but I'd like to emphasize the fact that it's not buildings and grounds decision. What's done with Old Town Hall, that's a council decision, we fully understand that. Whatever we decide as council, for next year, we'll hopefully have some numbers. We will have numbers on next meeting, but they're connected, interconnected, and one kind of works with the other for it to work out, and we'll have that for us and hopefully in the budget for next year. So that was long-winded, I apologize, but I'm sure I forgot something. Tim, Suzanne, or BJ hop in?
Okay,
With using 2F, do we know how much revenue we lose?
I will let BJ answer that.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can get that to you, and, it would be for just a period of time. COTC is looking at some stuff. As Tommy said, they currently lease the space, they use it for tutoring right now, like one woman in there tutoring, but they are talking to Reynoldsburg about doing a College Plus program, which they've identified that space to use for that. But what we've asked them is to take a good hard look at their classroom space in this building to see if they can get more aggressive with their scheduling, maybe having more back-to-back classes, which would hopefully free up some classroom space for the Reynoldsburg program, which would hopefully free up that space. They did ask about, if when utilities moves out, could they get the right of first refusal for the space down here? And we said, we don't see why not. But we also told them that if they find out that the utilities area doesn't work for them just because of the shape, it's more of a rectangle than a square, we would certainly be open to moving finance down there then, and them getting 2F back. So I think there are some good options. Should hear, the guy we met with is gonna talk to their scheduling guy and run models and everything. We should have that information this week. And once we hear from COTC what their take is on it, I think that answers the question about the office space.
I just think logically, and the way everything's set up, that it would make sense for us to have the second floor as city offices. That was just my opinion, as long as everything worked out on the first floor. But I think if we could, because that would leave us flexible in the future, we don't know what's going to happen, and then we'd have a lot more space to work with, to remodel or, move around, whatever it is we may need to do.
We talked about that briefly. The one thing the first floor does give us is a ready-made window for taking payments. And that's not a deal breaker. We talked to Mr. Nicholson in the meeting about it. It's not a deal breaker, but it does seem to kind of fit nicely, if that's the right term. So either way, we discussed that. That was a good point.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll just reiterate what Tommy said, Mel said at the last meeting, is that, we do need to start having some additional space in this building. And I know we said, hey, the revenue from this building is gonna go to the police station. Granted, if we lost some revenue from one area, Jamie and I have talked about this, it's not a tremendous hit where we wouldn't be able to afford, with the interest rate we got and the bids we got, it's not that huge of a concern that, hey, if we lose one suite in here, we're not gonna be able to pay the police station bill.
And I guess I'll add one other thing, is that the stressing to CTEC that we consider them to be a permanent and good
Absolutely.
and valuable tenant. So, please don't take our suggestions as, do it or hit the highway kind of thing, because we want to maintain that relationship.
again, I think everything that we come back to, every option and everything, I mean, we've been talking about this for a couple of months. It all depends, it all eventually goes back to utilities moving to Old Town Hall, which is ultimately a decision by council, what type of investment we wanna make down there. So, it's all one big moving wheel, I guess, that's what it is, so.
Okay, yes, sir. I guess I wanted to say two things. You know, BJ, I don't want to re-discuss or debate, I guess, the cost of the police station, but I would see it as the other way around. I don't want to lose, I guess I feel strongly that I don't want to lose revenue. Because while the bids came in where they came in, they're still higher than what we had expected initially. And great that we got a great rate, that's wonderful, but at the same time, we kind of budgeted in paying for that with the revenue from the building, and it doesn't pay for everything, so anything lost is an absolute. So given that, it sounds like, because I sat in on the meeting this evening, the committee meeting, need an answer like right now about something, because we have a new employee, and obviously with Linear, we've got two that we need to really resolve something.
But it'd be,
A
the
home.
sooner the better.
A home for them.
What I will say is what it's, right now we have, we've been talking to the mayor and setting him up, he has his cell phone, we were talking about getting him a laptop, so he can kind of float right now.
So given all that, and I mentioned to Tommy that I kind of had an idea that might work quickly. The mayor's old office is in a larger office. Have you guys looked at possibly putting a simple partition on the far wall and allowing 2 desks to be in there? One for the clerk, maybe one for the Parks and Rec, and leaving what used to be the attorney's, the city attorney's office for the mayor to use for the meantime. And then I know there was a lot of other ideas, technical ideas of stacking the mainframe, right? Vertically stacking the mainframe.
The server?
Server.
Actually, virtualizing it, so,
remotely. Okay, so
we wouldn't have the equipment there.
I think there's a few places we could look at that we might have more room than what we may have expected. That's kind of what I gathered from the meeting, and I'd be glad to talk with you guys further, Tommy, further about it if you want.
So essentially what you're saying is to split the mayor's office, make that
Essentially.
2.
Yep.
And then, as the mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, in the I guess while the police station's being built, until we determine what we're doing, you're gonna look into a laptop and maybe.
Yep.
So
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Mayor's kind of taking one for the team there. So, again, I think ultimately it'll be council's decision what they want to do with, if we want to use the COTC leased area, or if we want to make something else work. I guess a number would be do we have an idea? Because it's temporary, assuming that we move utilities, the income would come back once that happens, which is about a year.
I can't remember the square footage of that area to know off the top of my head what it generates.
Mr. Mayor, I mean, I don't care. I don't think it's our business, council's business, to tell the administration where to put their people. Unless it impacts a revenue stream for the city, that's when we get involved. But if the administration wants to move people around within this building and I don't think that's our business. I disagree. I think unless it affects a revenue, when we start talking about terminating a part of a lease or adjusting a lease, then I think that's when we get involved. And I appreciate, I listened to part of what Buildings and Grounds tonight, and I appreciate their interest, but I'm just not gonna get into telling Mr. King and the mayor where people sit.
Yeah, and I don't think Buildings and Grounds is.
I kinda got that impression.
No, I don't.
Mr. Walton, we're talking about, we gotta move these people into this office, that office.
Go ahead.
I don't care.
What I'll say is the option B that Tommy explained certainly is not a council decision. That's, we have office space, where can we put people? Option A would be, because that would be taking over some space that is currently leased by COTC.
Yeah, and that's certainly not our intent either of Buildings and Grounds, is to tell people where to sit. I agree with you 100%, Todd, so,
Okay.
and I don't, if it was taken that way,
I kinda got that impression that all of a sudden we're talking about where, we gotta approve where the finance department's gonna be in the building, it doesn't make any difference.
I guess more than anything, because that's a very valid point, A would be a council decision, and I guess where, it kind of ties in is that wheel I keep talking about. Whatever we do hinges on moving utilities, which is a council decision, what we want to invest in town hall.
And
So-
it grew organically out of
Yeah.
actually that issue. It just kind of ended up growing, so we were like, well, what do we do?
Yes,
Good.
ma'am. I'm
I
sorry,
only
go ahead.
have, and this.
Are you done, Todd?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, the example would be if utilities moves, that is a council decision, because that affects a revenue stream, because they're an enterprise fund. So we have to consider what would be the fair market value of their new, digs as opposed to their current digs, if there is any change in that value.
And what we want to invest to move them there.
Exactly,
So-
exactly.
The only thing I would have left to say on that is, ideally, it would be nice if we could wait until the police station was built, and we had that option to pursue with the old town hall. And making some, might be a little tight in the meantime, I have to get creative with some office space for a little bit. I hate to see us jump and start moving things around and then something not work out someplace else and then COTC not have someplace to go. So, I mean, I think that we could all be a little bit cozy for a second, but it might be a sacrifice we need to make so we don't jump ahead. That's all.
I would just encourage the administration, as the mayor, start taking the leader, to be creative in its room assignments and maybe not disrupt at least until the police station is built and the police department is there. We all know what happens with construction projects. And then we figure out what we want to do with, how much, as Mr. Lee pointed out, how much we want to invest in town hall, to put the utilities department down there, that's what we want to do. So that's kind of my take on it.
And as of right now, we have a spot to put Mr. Crawford, and we have a spot to put your new hire, and until HR comes along.
But you guys are holding off on HR till we find out what we're doing.
Well, I was holding off till we hear from COTC, just so we have all the information we need to make a decision.
Okay, so I guess would it be council's pleasure to find a dollar figure on that? Before we determine if we're going to,
Well, I think there's two things that we're waiting for.
And
First
there-
of all, hearing what
and
COTC has to say, and I can look tomorrow morning what we generate annually from that rental revenue, let council know.
that's all I have, sorry, I was long-winded, but
Fine.
I had to throw it out there, so.
Discussion.
Needed to be discussed, that's
Yep.
good stuff. Any other committee chair reports? Seeing none. Unfinished business, ordinance 2017-4204 for a third reading.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, we need to take that off the table, I believe.
Okay, is there any desire to take ordinance 2017-4204 off the table?
Mr. Mayor, I move we take ordinance 2017-4204 off.
Okay, need a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mr. Hicken, discussion. And you have to take a vote on taking it off the roll, so roll call please.
Walther,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Okay, off the table, now do we do a third reading then? Read it? I'm gonna read, Kathy's a little under the weather, so do we read the, okay. Ordinance 2017-4204 for a third reading, an ordinance approving a memorandum of understanding with the Licking Heights School District and
Mr. Mayor, point of order, you have to announce the ordinance, I believe, and then there has to be a motion and a second and a vote on whether or not it's going to go for the third reading.
And then,
Okay.
And then
Ordinance,
read it.
ordinance 2017-4204 for a third reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second?
seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll.
Hayes,
yes.
Hicken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes?
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2017-4204 for a third reading. An ordinance approving a memorandum of understanding with the Licking Heights Local School District in connection with possible property tax exemptions in a portion of the Pataskala Corporate Park as expressed in the attached Exhibit A, which was tabled 1/16/2018.
Mr. Mayor,
Discussion? Yes. Motion to, yeah, and if there's if there's no discussion, I'll
Mr.
look
Mayor,
for a motion.
I move that we adopt ordinance 2017-4204.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt. I need a second. Asking again for a second. Asking a third and final time for a second. Seeing none,
Motion dies for lack of second.
motion dies for a lack of a second. So that's now all gone, right?
Correct.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to remove ordinance 2017-4205 from the table.
I got a motion from Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion and roll.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Okay, it's off the table. I need a motion for a third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hicken and seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2017-4205 for a third reading. An ordinance approving a memorandum of understanding with the Southwest Licking School District in connection with possible property tax exemptions in a portion of the Pataskala Corporate Park as expressed in the attached Exhibit A, Table 1/16/2018. I need a motion to adopt. If there's no discussion. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I move we adopt ordinance 2017-4205.
Got a motion to adopt? Need a second? Asking again. Final time. Dies for lack of a motion, of a second motion. Save some ink for the next meeting. On the resolution, motion, okay, new business, ordinance 2018-4319 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hicken. Okay, this is ordinance 2018-4319 for a first reading. An ordinance to amend chapter 171 of the codified ordinances of the city of Pataskala regarding municipal income tax to adopt section 718.80 through 718.95 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Mayor, is the administration looking for a waiver of additional readings?
With the emergency, we wouldn't have any additional readings that would be approved upon passage tonight.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Doesn't that need to be
don't we still
adopted?
need to declare the emergency?
What you would,
I declared an emergency, right?
Well, you have to
We
declare an
always had
emergency to
another
waive the other
emergency.
rules, to waive the other readings.
right, but if it's declared an emergency, we don't have to have any additional readings.
That's the way I read it, was declaring it an emergency, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Todd asked if we were looking to have the additional readings waived. With declaring an emergency, there would be no additional readings.
That's right, I want to make sure.
That's when it,
I
when
don't
it
think we
does,
have, I don't think we have a rule that talks about declaring an emergency. I don't think it's a council rule.
well, when it doesn't say declaring an emergency and somebody wants to forfeit the other readings, that's
Right.
brought up.
Right.
But this is declaring an emergency, so. Any other discussion?
In the past, we had done a separate motion declaring that emergency.
Yes, there should be, yes.
Yes.
That's kind of what I was,
Yeah.
yeah. So, Mr. Mayor, I move that as relates to ordinance 2018-4319, the council declare an emergency.
Got a motion by Mr. Barstow,
I'll second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion and roll on the motion to declare an emergency.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Okay, Motion passes. Back to the original ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
yeah, I
sir.
move that we adopt ordinance 2018-4319.
I have a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Emergency passes. Resolution 2018-018, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into and execute an operating lease agreement with the Conica Minolta Business Systems and Conica Minolta Premier Finance for the replacement of an existing city copier and associated maintenance agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hickens, seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion and roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-019, a resolution authorizing a partnership agreement between Licking County and the City of Pataskala in regard to program year 2018 Community Housing Impact and Preservation, better known as CHIP, funds from the Ohio Development Services Agency / Office of Community Development, the ODSA/OCD, and directing Benjamin J. King, City Administrator, City of Pataskala, to execute said partnership agreement.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion and roll.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-020, resolution adopting Licking County's programmatic agreement with the State of Ohio's Historic Preservation Office and the Licking County Community Development Advisory Commission, the CDAC, CHIP manual as amended for eligible housing activities for the partnership between Licking County, who is the applicant grantee, and the City of Pataskala, partner, funded in whole or in part with program year 2018 Community Housing Impact and Preservation, better known as CHIP funds, from the Ohio Development Services Agency / Office of the Community Development, better known as ODSA/OCD.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken and seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-021, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Strand Associates, Inc. for the engineering design services of the 2018 roadway improvements, better known as our RAMP program.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Walther. Discussion? And roll.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-022.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to table resolution 2018-022.
Got a motion to
Second.
table and seconded by Mr. Barstow. Is that it? We have to do roll.
Roll.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
And that's just tabled till we get some further information, correct?
May 7th, it'll be back in front of council, which will meet the May 18th deadline.
I'm not a patient person. I can own it.
Very good. Table. Resolution is tabled. Resolution 2018-023, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to advertise, receive, and review bids for the construction of the 2018 roadway improvements program, better known as the RAMP.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lee. Discussion? I just have a quick question. Is this later than usual, later than normal?
Yes.
Okay. What's our optimum month to get that out there for bid?
Much earlier,
Okay.
January.
January, okay. All right. Any other discussion? And roll, please.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Picken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Additional citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak tonight? Seeing none, we'll start with you, Suzanne.
Story walk's underway,
Hmm.
so working on that.
Dates on that?
It's a combination, it's a partnership between the high school digital arts program this year and our third graders at Pataskala. Third graders wrote paragraphs on their favorite places in their hometown and sent their paragraphs off to the digital arts photography class, and they went out into the community and have taken pictures. So I just need to kind of marry the pictures with the paragraphs, and Brandon Signs is gonna help us, and it's gonna be fun to have that many, a wide age group of kids involved in it. So
Is that at Municipal Park?
it is. We do the story walk boards go on the, I have pictures I can show you what it looks like. They go on the wooden fence along the creek.
I've seen them in the past.
Yeah.
And I was just asking about it, when it was gonna be.
You know what, I have it in an email, I'll send it to you. It's usually the last week, full week of May, they do a picnic, and then we get it all approved, and, they do a picnic down at the park, and the library will come and get the approval. It's all through the library, so they run it. So I'll have Jeff Rothweiler get a hold of you. Thanks.
Anything else? Suzanne?
No, sorry,
Okay.
I'm good.
Mrs.
Thank you.
Carter.
I found the, West Licking Fire Department presentation very fascinating, and, just extend my gratitude to them for everything they do. I know that, with, family members and such, they've been of assistance a number of times, and they've always been wonderful and very prompt, and it's appreciated. I also wanna thank, the Summit Station Lions Club. My, son, Michael, I think you guys have all met Michael a time or two, is, going to the National DECA competition this weekend. And, Pataskala Summit Station Lions Club has sponsored him to go. So that was very appreciated, and, he's really excited. I'll let you know how that turns out. We're gonna have a development committee right before the comprehensive plan meeting next Monday. That's all I got.
Mr. Barstow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was great to see Mrs. Hayes in the newspaper last week with her new shop. That I'm not an arts and crafts guy, but it looked interesting. Owning your own business is a lot of fun, I can tell you that. So good luck, and that looked like a great addition to the downtown. Again, with Mrs. Carter, I enjoyed the West Licking Fire District presentation. I especially applaud them for their stroke protocol. I can tell you from personal experience with my mom from December, that is extremely important to get to the hospital very quickly and find out so you know exactly what's going on. And again, on the finance committee, I'll be working with Jamie and Kathy and fellow finance committee members to come up with a time and meeting for that. That's all I have for you.
Mr. Hickman.
I'll keep it simple. My thanks to Chief Majors for his, and also my thanks to the Masons for the work that they put in. Looking to have a utility committee meeting, Nathan, on May 7th. That's a council night. And right now, there's no committee meeting scheduled before that. There is a couple of hearings, so
2 public
we'll put together an agenda, maybe you and I, and send it out to everybody and make sure that we have times coordinated. And that's all for me.
Yeah, I'd have to reiterate that, obviously, the chief coming in and give us an update, and, it's being on the fire board, that was previously, it's nice to see all those things come to fruition that we were talking about, especially the response time, knowing that we have those stations, located all over the city, and the response times are a couple of minutes is very reassuring. That's, and appreciated. Chief, would you give us, April 28th as our drug take-back day, would you give us the times on that and where it's at again?
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There at the police station, which is 430 South Main Street. You actually drive right through the north side of the building there in the alley, and you don't even have to get out of your car. We'll just take it right out of your window.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Zetz, got anything?
Nope.
Mr. Walther?
Mayor, I wanted to say thank you very much for the mailbox, the flag box. I noticed that immediately when I walked in, took a picture and forwarded that on to Ann, you know, from, I guess, from her point of view and from other veterans' point of view, that's exceptional. It's exceptional. So, well done.
Thank you, thank you. It was, I don't know where that idea came from. I just thought it was, we were, in fact, Steve Blake had even mentioned to me that, you know, some veterans had come in to the window and said, you know, wow, we're putting flags on the floor. So I was trying to think of a creative, what could we creatively make to put those in, and that just popped into my mind. So thank you very much. It worked out really good.
She's on her way to England now, so
Oh.
she texted me before she got on the plane and said that she was very happy
Good.
that was done. So,
Very good.
thank you.
Yes, sir. What do you got for me? Anything?
Just it was nice to have the fire chief's update. It's very informative. I enjoyed that. And then glad to have Mr. Crawford up here with us. It'd be nice to get a little bit more regular updates on what's happening in the parks. So welcome.
Thank you.
I've spoke way more than normal, so probably sick of hearing me, but I do want to add one thing. That just a little perspective.
We are sick of hearing. No, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the gavel now. I can play that game. Anyway, one thing, and Tim, please pass this on to Chief Majors. It didn't hit me until after he left. That 50% rate on VFib is truly amazing, and I'll tell you what hit me afterwards. It's not only awesome number. These guys are 20 minutes from the hospital out here. I'm 5 minutes from 5 of them, and I don't think we could touch that where I'm at. That number and the distance that they are from a hospital, that's pretty daggone amazing. Even think about Seattle. If that's on par with Seattle, how many hospitals and how close are they to hospitals? So the distance from the hospital, and they're putting out 50% like that, that is, that's, I might have to have a conversation when I get into work tomorrow, see if we can kick it up a notch. So, anyway, please pass that on. That,
Well-
and I think that council should hear that too. That our fire department, that's a grand slam right there. So,
It's something he's been working for a long time,
Yeah.
and even more important to people like me that love bacon.
with that being said, I'll motion to adjourn.
Second. Got a motion, seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion and roll.
Hayes? Yes. Pickens?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Barstow?
Barstow?
Yes.
Barstow, meeting adjourned.
If you have any more, shoot an email, call me, whatever.
Not that it matters, not that we're supposed to be directing you.